Right. Good afternoon. As soon as we are done, we'll be joined by Omar Abdi, the Deputy Executive Director of UNICEF. He'll be here to join us in this room to brief you on the situation in Afghanistan, where I think and then Monica will obviously brief on behalf of the PGA. Starting off on Afghanistan, our mission on the ground in Afghanistan today said that terrorism continues in the country with at least 30 people killed and scores injured in a suicide attack at Kandahar's largest Shia mosque that took place during Friday prayers. UNAMA stressed that the UN condemns the latest atrocity targeting a religious institution and worshippers, and those responsible must be brought to justice. We do expect a statement from the Secretary General soon. Also on Afghanistan, the UN Refugee Agency today urged states to facilitate and expedite family reunification procedures for Afghans whose families are left behind in Afghanistan or who've been displaced across the region. UNHCR said that recent political developments in Afghanistan have not led to large-scale cross-border displacements. However, many among pre-existing Afghan refugees and asylum seeker populations remain separated from their families owing to the inaccessibility of family reunification procedures. UNHCR stressed that the principle of family unity is protected under international law and in binding regional legal instruments. Domestic legislation in many countries also has this principle. A humanitarian update for you on Ethiopia. Our humanitarian colleagues tell us they are greatly concerned about the situation in the north of the country, where they're receiving reports of an intensification of the conflict in multiple locations. Despite the extremely challenging circumstances, aid workers continue to deliver assistance to people across 3 northern provinces. In Tigray, where more than 90% of the people need aid and an estimated 400,000 people are living in famine-like conditions, aid operations continue to face significant challenges. Although more than 200 trucks of humanitarian supplies arrived in Tigray last week, far more is needed, and the convoys did not receive clearance to carry much-needed fuel or medicine, as we've been telling you about the issue of our fuel trucks that have been stuck. The lack of cash, fuel, and supplies in disrupting the response in multiple areas. Last week, our humanitarian partners were only able to reach 17% of the people who should have received food assistance. Water trucking services in central and northwestern zones have been reduced, and that impacts 472,000 men, women, and children. Our colleagues say they are particularly concerned that much-needed medical supplies continue to be blocked from entering Tigray. 9 trucks carrying medicine have been awaiting approval to enter Tigray since the beginning of August. In Amhara and Afar, we continue to scale up our operations so that people impacted by the fighting receive the help they need. Since the beginning of August, 640,000 people in Amhara and 72,000 people in Afar have received food assistance. Again, we call on the parties to the conflict to halt the fighting and ensure that aid workers are able to reach all people in dire need of help. Back here in the chamber next door in the Security Council, the Special Representative of the Secretary General in Kosovo, Zahir Tanin, briefed the Council on the situation there. He warned Council members that escalating tensions and had the potential to unravel the steady but fragile progress that had been made to rebuild trust between Kosovo's communities. Mr. Tanin added that Kosovo is approaching another local election in 2 days' time. The focus at central and municipal levels should now be trained upon delivering high expectations of people for change, and he urged the government to focus on rebuilding the bonds of trust between all the communities in Kosovo and in the political leadership. And he stressed that the rebuilding trust demands a sincere approach to the Belgrade-Pristina dialogue process, as well as the building and encouraging atmosphere among different communities within Kosovo. The UN's resident humanitarian coordinator for Yemen, David Gressley, warned that the escalation of fighting in Yemen in recent weeks, particularly in Marib, Shabwab, and Al-Baida governorates, is having a devastating impact on civilians. He's particularly concerned about the situation in Marib governorates Abdia district. The ongoing security situation has severely restricted movements in and out of the district for an estimated 35,000 people, including 17,000 extremely vulnerable people who had found refuge there after fleeing conflict in another area. He called on all parties involved in the fighting to agree now to a cessation of hostilities for Al Abdia district to allow for the safe passage of civilians and aid workers and for the evacuation of all those who were wounded in the fighting. As you saw, we announced last night that following completion of a technical assessment, the Secretariat has responded positively to the request of the National Electoral Council of Venezuela to deploy UN panel of experts for the November 2021 municipal and regional elections. A team of 3 experts will deploy to the country in November to follow the electoral process. The team will provide the Secretary General with an independent internal report of the overall conduct of the elections. The new report by the International Organization of Migration says that migrant workers face high risks of injury and death more than other workers. An estimated 164 million migrant workers make up almost 5% of the global workforce. They're more likely to have jobs in the informal economy where risks are even greater, and they're overrepresented in hazardous jobs. IOM says more data is needed, notably on circumstances of death, to design policies to ensure the safety of migrant workers. And from Latin America, UN agencies are jointly saying today that they are saddened by the sinking of a boat in Colombia carrying 30 people to Panama, in which 3 people were killed and 6 others, including children, are missing. The agency said the incident once again highlights the desperation of families and the risks of people exposed to that as they search for safety and for a better life. Increased number of people are crossing the Darien Gap. Of 91,300 people who crossed between January and September, 19,000 are believed to be children. We stress the need for safe, regular, and orderly migration routes and to strengthen investigations into networks involved in trafficking and smuggling. The agencies also urge states to protect the rights, including to seek and receive asylum to all people on the move. And we often talk to you about the impact of lack of funding for our humanitarian operations. And here's another real-world example. In Nigeria, the World Food Program today warned that it might cut food aid as early as next month to more than 500,000 women, men, and children in the Northeast unless it receives urgent funding. These cuts would impact WFP's operations in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states unless it receives at least $55 million soon. The cuts could come as the severe hunger reaches 5-year high in Nigeria following years of conflict. The situation has been worsened by COVID-19, high food prices, and limited food supply. The number of displaced people in northeast Nigeria reached an all-time high of more than 2 million in September. Some 4.4 million people in the area do not know where their next meal is coming from, and more than 1 million children are malnourished. We have a number of international days to mark, and they are the International Day of Rural Women, which is today, and the theme is Rural Women Cultivating Good Food for All. The Secretary General said, despite ensuring the world can be fed, many women, rural women, suffer from discrimination, systematic racism, and structural poverty. And tomorrow is World Food Day, and the theme this year is Our Actions Are the Future. In a message, the Secretary General says the day is not only a reminder of the importance of food to every person on the planet, it is also a call to action to achieve food security around the world. And Sunday is the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, in which the Secretary General stresses that poverty is a moral indictment of our time, and for the first time in 2 decades, extreme poverty is on the rise. All those messages are available to you. On Monday, after Monica and I brief, there will be a press briefing in this room by the Special Rapporteur on the promotion and protection of the rights of freedom of opinion and expression, and that is Irene Khan. I'm done. Edie, Mr. Bays is clearly shy today. Yeah.
Steph, in Cyprus, UN inspectors completed their inspection of a small plane alleged to be violating the arms embargo against Libya by carrying arms or ammunition. Is there any statement from the UN or any result on the outcome of that inspection?
No, my understanding is that these are inspections linked to Security Council Sanctions Committee. I think it's what is very important is that member states support the work of these experts in allowing them to do their work, which is what is seems to be happening, and they will report in due time to the Security Council. Benno and then James.
Thank you. Do you have a reaction to the killing of a British member of parliament today?
Yes, I mean, we obviously are extremely saddened by this murder, and I think it, and express, of course, our condolences to his family and as well as to the people and government of the UK. What is clear for us is that lawmakers need to be able to do their work. They need to go about doing their work free from fear of attacks or murder or anything else, and that is a centerpiece of democracy. James.
The UN's mission in Haiti, its mandate expires tonight, and yet the Security Council is doing 11th hour negotiations on that issue. I know you don't want to get involved in their negotiations, but you might want to tell us what's at stake if it's not renewed.
Well, clearly the situation in Haiti continues to show great instability, not only on the political front, but also on the humanitarian front. Haiti is a country that continues to need help. Haitian institutions also need help, so we do hope that the Security Council will find a way forward to renew the mandate in a way that they wish to renew it. Madame.
Stéphane, what does the Secretary General think about some country in Europe building walls to push the migrants away? That's my first question. The second question is like, do we still have two working languages at the UN, like French and English?
Oui.
Because, and I'm going to say it in French, at the, la personne, I don't know how to speak French anymore.
Yeah. We can try the franglais if you'd like. Yeah.
La personne qui annonce les documents à l'entrée du delegate lounge m'a dit hier qu'on lui avait interdit d'annoncer les rendez-vous, enfin les meetings et tout ça en français. Is that true?
It's a very good question. Très bonne question. As I will check and je retournerai vers vous. Yeah. All right.
No, the walls.
Sorry. No. Let's. It's a very good, important question. You know, obviously, countries have a responsibility to defend their borders and to defend their citizens as their primary responsibility. What is also critical is that every country respect international law, including the Refugee Convention, allow people to seek asylum, that there be no refoulement of people, that migrants' human rights be respected, that their dignity be respected. The convention on the Refugee Convention in 1951 was in fact created for Europeans who were on the move in the aftermath of the Second World War. And I think it's also important to remember that. Okay. Yes, Edie, sorry.
Steph, does the Secretary General have any comment on the apparent pattern of attacks on Shiite mosques in Afghanistan?
I mean, it's first of all, attacks, terrorist attacks are unacceptable. Terrorist attacks on religious institutions are especially heinous and despicable. This is not the first attack that we've seen. It is important that every community in Afghanistan feel safe and that those in charge ensure the safety of every community and every ethnic group. Okay, we will now go to our guests, and then we will go to Monica. So let me get our guest, and I'll be right back.